Good morning. As many of you know, there have been many changes that have taken place in the local and federal state levels of education. And there's an ongoing issue with student morale, teacher motivation, which brings me to this training session that I'd like to present with you today. It's a training session that will be based on 5 different models that allow changes to take place. Many of the 5 models are used within corporations, businesses, schools today that allow them to adapt to change and make changes to make their organizations or their schools more effective. The first model that I'd like to introduce to you today is the Bridges Transition Model. This model was created by change consultant William Bridges, and he published it in his 1991 book, Managing Transitions. The main strength of the model is that it focuses on transition, not change. The difference between change is subtle, but it's very important. Change is something that happens to people even if they don't agree with it. Transition, on the other hand, is what's happened in people's minds as they go through change. Change can happen very quickly, while transition occurs more slowly. There are 3 different stages in this model of the Bridges transition model. Number 1 is the ending, losing, and letting go stage. Number 2 is the neutral zone. Number 3 is the new beginning. Bridges has been quoted as saying that people will go through each stage at their own pace. For example, those who are comfortable with change will likely move ahead to stage 3 more quickly, while others will linger at stage 1. The next stage that I'd like to introduce to you is the force field analysis stage. And you all have documents of each stage as presented to you earlier. The force field analysis stage was created by Kurt Lewin in the 1940s. Lewin originally used the tool in his work as a social psychologist. Today, however, force field analysis is also used in business for making and communicating go, no go decisions. With this model, I think it's important to ask the following questions. What business will benefit, or how the business will benefit? Who supports the change? Who is against the change? And why are they against the change? How easy will this change be? Do you have enough time to create the change? Do you have enough resources to create the change? What costs are involved? And what other business processes will be affected by this change? And most importantly, what are the risks involved? Then there's Lewin's change management model. And there are 3 stages in this change that are very important. The first change is unfreeze. In the unfreeze stage, it involves preparing an organization to accept that change is necessary. In the second stage of change, there is the refreeze. In that stage, when the changes are taking shape and people have embraced new ways of working, the organization is ready to refreeze. And the third stage of change is the unfreeze. The third model that I'd like to introduce, excuse me, is the change curve, accelerating change and increasing its likelihood of success. With this change, the change curve model describes 4 stages that people go through in making changes. Those changes are the state of their change: status quo, disruption, exploration, and rebuilding. The reaction to the status quo change, people are in shock or in denial about the change. And the second change stage, disruption, there's anger, there's fear. In the third stage, there's exploration, which can yield acceptance. And in the fourth stage, there is the rebuilding stage, which the reaction can be commitment. And the fifth model that I like to introduce to you today is Kotter's 8-step change model, which is the recommended change model that I think would be most effective to solve this issue. In this model, a Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, said that change is the only constant. We know that change has to happen, but we really don't know how to go about delivering it. So where do you start? Who's involved in the change? How do you see it through to the end? Well, with the Kotter's 8-step change model, he offers these 8 steps. Step 1, create urgency. In this step, we identify the potential threats, which we all know are the low morale of teacher and student motivation. In the second step, we form a powerful coalition. You have to convince people that change is necessary, and we all know that change is necessary to alleviate this issue. And this often takes strong leadership, which I know that we have in our school system today, and you have to be available to lead this change. In the third step, we have to create a vision for the change. When you first start thinking about change, there will be probably many great ideas, which are always welcome, and solutions floating around. But we have to determine the values that are central to this change. We have to create a strategy, but not only creating a strategy, we have to execute that strategy and make sure that our vision is clear and concise. And we have that vision listed at the beginning of our training model for each school, not only for each school, but for the entire district that we serve. Step 4 is the communication vision. What you do after you create it determines your success. Your message probably has to be of a strong competition from day-to-day communications within the organization. Step 5, we have to remove obstacles. We have to identify or hire leaders whose main roles are to deliver this change. We have to look at our organizational structure. We have to recognize our job descriptions, and we have to recognize and reward people for making change happen. That's most important and has been deemed to be most effective in this model. We have to identify people who are resisting the change and help them see why this change is needed and what is needed for this change to take place. In step 6, we have to create short-term wins. Now, in this step, it's critical that we look for surefire projects that we can implement without help from any strong critics of the change. We have to thoroughly analyze the potential pros and cons of our tactics and targets. If we don't succeed with an early goal, we can hurt the entire school district. And we have to reward, as I've said before. The people who help you meet the targets have to be rewarded. In step 7, build on the change. Kotter argues that change projects fail because victory is declared too early. We cannot allow that to happen. After every win, what we must do is analyze what went right and what went wrong. And we have to set goals and continue to building upon those goals once they've been achieved. And then the final step of Kotter's model, we have to anchor the changes in corporate culture. In order to make change stick, it must become part of the core part of our organization. We all have to work together. We have to work hard to make this organization successful. I think once we plan carefully and come together and work together and get the right resources that we need, get the right people in place, Kotter's model of change will be the most effective change model that will help us to alleviate the problem with the low morale and student-teacher motivation. Please be cognizant that this change has to take place. It will take place. It will be successful. And I know that you all will do a wonderful job. And if you need any assistance from me, feel free to reach out to me at any time. Thank you.